This is the mini lesson on forensic entomology. So, this will involve using insects as evidence. Up to this point, we have looked at evidence from eyewitness testimony, fingerprints, impression evidence, hair evidence, and now we're going to be looking at how insects can be used as evidence in a criminal investigation. This usually involves whenever a corpse has been hidden or disposed of and has been out there for some time, and insects have started to take part in the decomposition process. So be aware that some of this material may be graphic or um, a little gross. So especially the videos. If you don't want to watch the videos, you can fast forward through that. So a forensic entomologist is a scientist that will apply entomology, which is the knowledge of insects and their life cycles and behaviors. And they use this to give them clues about a crime. So aspects of their job would be identification of insects at various stages of their life cycle, such as the eggs, the larvae, and adults. They need to collect and preserve insects as evidence, just like any other evidence. It has to follow a certain protocol to be admissible in court. They will determine an estimate for the post-mortem interval, or PMI. So this is an important new term. PMI is the time between the death and the discovery of the body. So they use factors such as the insect evidence, weather conditions are important, location and condition of the body are also important in determining the PMI. And then the forensic entomologist will be called to testify in court to help explain the insect related evidence to the jury. So they're going to try to convey their knowledge of insects and their life cycles to just normal everyday people so that they understand how that evidence relates to what the prosecution is trying to say about the crime or the defense. So here we're going to watch a video real quick of a forensic entomologist.
Richard Merritt is a forensic entomologist. He uses insects to help solve crimes.
What I really like about forensic entomology is you're trying to solve a mystery.
Merritt knows exactly how many days it takes for maggots to reach the various stages in their life cycle. When a dead body turns up and the maggots are collected from it, Merritt can then figure out how long that person's been dead by looking at how well developed the maggots are and counting back the days.
It's not for the squeamish. There's no question about it. It is a science that you have to get used to. A lot of times, crime scene investigators, when they first start out and they go to a crime scene and see a dead body full of maggots, they either lose it or they don't want anything to do with it. Whereas we look on this as an opportunity, and we can, go in there and collect these maggots, and we're used to seeing them, and that's what we need to do to determine that post-mortem interval.
That period of time, the post-mortem interval, is the time between the actual death and when the body was discovered. But he doesn't just deal with murders.
Forensic entomology really involves any aspect of insects in a court of law.
So he can be called to testify about a maggot in a hamburger, or
you have termite damage to your house. You have someone who calls you and said that there's bugs coming out of their orifices and they want you to look at them.
But mostly Merritt deals with the types of forensic entomology that you see on TV.
Medical, legal, criminal entomology, which deals with determining the time between death and corpse discovery.
And how does he deal with all those grisly crime scenes and all the dead bodies?
After a while, and I know this sounds callous, but you do become callous. You get used to seeing the same thing over and over again. And after a while, it doesn't affect you as much. But if anything affects me, if I had to say anything, it is children. That I don't like to see that. Not that I enjoy seeing adults, but I'm more callous to that because that's mostly what it is adults that I deal with.
Merritt doesn't practice forensic entomology full time. He's actually an aquatic entomologist by trade.
I think it would get old looking at maggots 8 or 12 hours a day.
He's currently studying emerging diseases in his lab at MSU. But when it comes to criminal cases, his expertise is just a phone call away. For Discovery News, I'm James Williams.
It's Michael's lowest price. Okay. Sorry about that. Oh my gosh. Apologies. Okay, so insects as evidence. Most insects that are used in investigations will fall into two major orders: flies, Diptera, and beetles, Coleoptera. I don't think I said that right. Anyways, and the way that they're used is called species succession. So it provides clues for investigators. So if you look over at the table, the first type of insect that is going to show up on a corpse, I don't know where my mouse is, will be succession wave 1 flies, especially blowflies. They will show up on a fresh corpse and stay there for the first 3 months. So that would be a species that would feed on a fresh corpse. And then you have flies that come in and prefer to feed on a corpse that has been dead for a couple of weeks. So flush flies and blowflies, whenever the corpse starts to produce an odor, which is also in the first 3 months. And then you get the beetles, the third succession wave. They come after fats that have turned rancid, which happens between 3 and 6 months. The fourth succession wave, you get various flies. Fifth succession wave, various flies and beetles because ammonia fermentation. So that's 4 to 8 months. The sixth succession wave would be mites. They'll show up between 6 and 12 months. And then you get the beetles whenever the corpse is completely dry. So that's when all the soft tissue has decomposed and you're going to be left with just the skeletal remains. That's 1 to 3 years or plus 3 years. So, what type of insect is on the corpse will give some idea of the age of the corpse. Weather data is also important for analyzing insect evidence. So, they're going to be interested in the temperature of the air, the surface of the ground, the area between the body and the ground, that interface area, and the soil under the body. And they're also going to be interested in what the recent weather was, daily temperature, the highs, the lows, and whether it was raining or not. So all of this will affect the insect evidence and determination of PMI. So other factors that may affect the PMI estimates: was the body enclosed in an area or wrapped in material that would have prevented flies from finding the corpse and laying eggs? Were other insect species present that may have affected the development of the collected species? And were there drugs or other poisons in or on the body that might have affected the larvae's development? Some drugs will delay the development of the larvae, so it will take that timeline and shift it a little bit. So this next video is about the first body farm in the world in Knoxville, Tennessee. Now there are body farms. This isn't the only one anymore. I know when I was in Austin, Texas, there was one down the road. And what they're doing is looking at and studying decomposition of bodies.
Puzzles and crimes are kindred spirits. Each starts off as a jumble of information, various pieces laying about, waiting to be joined in the big picture. Law enforcement from around the world learn to find their puzzle pieces here at the University of Tennessee Forensic Anthropology Facility.
So it's the first natural decomposition laboratory for humans in the entire world.
Every day they're learning better ways to win a cat and mouse game, but their opponents are more like rats.
Mostly what we're dealing with is criminals who have tried to hide the body.
Which is where the body farm comes into play. Founded by William Bass, this plot of land on the UT campus is home to dozens of decaying bodies.
Oh, in 1981, they had one body donated. Now we have we can receive over 100 bodies a year.
The bodies are put in settings ranging from trunks of cars to hangings.
A lot of the work that we do is what we call actualistic studies. What that means is that law enforcement or medical examiners come to us and they say, look, we've had this case and we have no idea how long this person has been there or why they look the way they do when we found them. And so we can essentially replicate those studies. For instance, one research project we've been doing for the past year is looking at how drugs in the body change their concentrations over time.
A body holds several pieces to the big picture. As seconds tick away and elements beat on the body, those puzzle pieces can change.
There's actually a competition between the microbes that are in the gut of the human that go down into the soil during decomposition and the microbacteria that are normally in the soil. And we're using that to not only document first if a body decomposed in a certain location, even if the body's not there anymore, and second, how long ago.
They can also answer the who.
In between here, you can see this bump of bone. That's a healed fracture. Okay, this is something that we can use if we have medical records for this individual to help identify them.
And the how.
If it's a gunshot wound, the trajectory through the body. So that helps us tell police what the relationship was between the perpetrator and the victim.
After all possible information from the bodies is unlocked, they're taken here to the Anthropology Department building to be cleaned by students and have all their vital information documented. After that process, they join a much more lively crowd. The skeletons of the more than 1,100 volunteered bodies are kept underneath Neyland Stadium, where these puzzle pieces can be studied for years and years to come by generations of crime solvers. In Knoxville, Chris Womack, CBS 42 News.
Oh my
Puzzles and
gosh.
crimes are kindred.
Okay, so sorry, blowfly metamorphosis. So, blowflies are attracted to dead bodies within minutes of the death of an animal or a person. So, they have a complete life cycle that consists of first the eggs are laid, and then those hatch into larvae, develop into pupa, and then eventually produce the adult blowfly. So first, the adult fly will lay the eggs on the carcass, and this would be especially around areas where the wounds are or openings in the body, such as the nose, eyes, ears, mouth. And then the eggs will hatch into larvae, what we know as maggots, within 12 to 24 hours. So this is going to be from where I just showed this. Where's my mouse? Anyway, it'll be the little worm looking guys on the bottom half of this circle. So the larvae continue to grow and molt. So molt is when they shed their exoskeletons. Spiders do the same thing. So as they pass through their various instar stages. So the first instar stage is the one shown when they'll be 5 millimeters long, and that's after about 1.8 days, almost 2 days. So you have the eggs hatch within 12 to 24 hours. That's 1 day. And then after 1.8 days, you're going to have the maggots that are about 5 millimeters long in their first instar stage. The second instar larva stage, they'll get to 10 millimeters long, and that's after about 2.5 days. And then the third instar stage will be 14 to 16 millimeters long, and that's after 4 to 5 days. Now, The larva, once they get it to 17 millimeters long, they develop into a pupa, and they will do that when they burrow into the surrounding soil. And then the adult flies will emerge from the pupa cases after 6 to 8 days. So you can see how the blowfly metamorphosis will help you determine a length of time. It takes approximately 14 to 16 days from egg to adult, depending on the temperatures and how wet it is, the humidity levels around the body. And this is how they can be used as evidence whenever um, a carcass is found. All right, guys, so make sure you filled out your notes, and then there is a review that you need to complete.